BBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning, Uganda. Good morning, Uganda. Once again, we welcome you to this program. Thank you so much for joining us. We do this every morning from 6:30 to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am happy to be here this early morning. By the way, did you know that waking up early is actually good for your health? Now, Benjamin Franklin once said, a man who rises early is not only healthy, they are wealthy and also wise. So I'm hoping that you are one of those people that are wealthy, healthy and wise because you woke up early. And I know that waking up early sometimes is hard for most of us, but yes, we have to do what we have to do because there are advantages to waking up early. But before we go into those advantages, good morning, Chiravo.
A lovely morning to you.
Were you able to wake up early this morning?
Oh, actually, today I had something very interesting. I woke up very early. I don't know why. I lost sleep a bit very early.
Okay.
So I decided to go and prepare myself, get set, then go on the table to do some work, which I sat in the sofa and do some bit of reading. And guess what?
What?
At a certain point, I dozed off.
Oh my God.
So I only woke up. Then I'm like, what?
What? And yesterday you were here lecturing us about how you can't be late for work, that your profession calls for you being here on time.
So the mistake I did is waking up, showering, dressing up. Then it was still early for me to move out.
Okay.
That's, morning hours. So I said, let me do some bit of sit and read, and somehow sleep got me off. And guess what I was reading about?
What were you reading about?
Yesterday the Electoral Commission released the strategic plan and independent roadmap for the 2025-2026 general elections.
Okay, now before you continue with that, I would like to hear all about it. But good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Oli.
Now, I know that for you and I, this early morning thing is still very new. How are you holding up?
I'm actually doing fairly well.
Okay.
I think it's only because I had taken a bit of a break for some time from the early mornings. The only struggle is that during the day, by the time we get off the show, it's like, say, 9, 10.
Exactly.
I get to my workstation and my energy is at around 3 p.m. and someone's energies of early morning, they've just literally got into their day. And me, my energy is already
down.
I feel like my day should be done.
Because your day starts early. It has been happening to me.
Yes.
Normally, I don't have my first meal of the day until about 12 or 1 because I'm not good with breakfast. Now, lately, I was telling you yesterday, I'm like, it's 9 a.m. and I'm very hungry. She's like, because you wake up very early. Your day starts quite early. But waking up early is really good for all of us. Did you know that when you wake up early, it is actually good for you because in the end, you're going to have good sleep. Because you woke up early, you're going to go to bed early and you're going to have good sleep. And for us ladies who love our skins, it contributes to good skin.
Only if you are someone that could, if you're used to sleeping early,
yes,
or if you can adopt to sleeping early, that would help. But there are people who actually have challenges sleeping early.
Maybe people with insomnia.
And sometimes, you see what happened to Cherabo? It could happen to even me because I was up by like 3 or 2, actually by 2 I was up and I was looking.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are glad to be here this morning and to take you through your morning, usher you into the new day, which is Thursday, the 3rd of August, 2023. Chirabo wanted to tell us something about the election roadmap. Please, I need to know more about it because I need to know, is it time for me to get my, voter's card? What do I need?
Well, quite a lot of things are entailed in this.
Okay.
Because we're looking at the strategic plan and roadmap for the 2025-2026 general elections. What is exciting about it is that we know that on the 12th of January 2026 or 2026, we will be electing the president and members of parliament. So that is there. And also what is very clear is we have to cough 1.3 trillion to organize these elections. We have about 1.9 elective positions in this country. So we need this bunch of money to give to the Electoral Commission in time so that they can plan very well for us to have smooth elections. But also the Electoral Commission came up and told now politicians and fellow Ugandans that releasing the roadmap does not mean it is time for you to start campaigns.
Well, well, well.
So because it is out, you're not supposed to start campaigns. Actually, what is allowed now are what they call consultations, and these are done in a closed
so
you can consult some of your people, but you don't have this campaign structure.
what if I want to do a consultation, go to my constituents and, you know, consult? Because it's called a consultation,
Well,
right?
electoral laws dictate and describe what a consultative meeting should be for a politician, for a political aspirant. But as of now, at least everything is out. We know the dates. And also there is a projection that the number of elective positions may increase. Remember, you're supposed to have a census, and the outcomes of the census, if they show numbers are big, then they call for that is more representation. So we may end up seeing more members of parliament from just the 529.
My
the number
goodness.
could increase.
As if
There is
the
a
number we
projection.
have is not big enough.
But my challenge with that is when we finished the last elections, we were talking about the members of parliament being many. President Museveni coming out to say even some of the government institutions have to be merged, something like that. And now we are thinking
Of having more members of parliament and more constituents.
should we say we just go with the moments?
Because when you
appease
have more
certain
municipalities, definitely when you have more municipalities, they come with members of parliament, they come with another group of councillors and all that. So it's big.
I have
that
seen
you have more of these positions.
I have seen information that says about 24 million more Ugandans might be added to the over 18 million voters
Yeah,
that
it is.
we have.
Yes, it is because.
So that is why we're having the constituencies increase.
Because representation looks at size and population.
Are you aware that that there are municipalities that do not even have offices?
Yes.
Yeah,
do
we
have
still
them,
have
and they're
those
still
problems.
struggling.
And then now we want to give ourselves
The new
more
cities
burden
we had
without
recently still have a lot of challenges.
Thank
the budget
you.
is an
No
issue
administrative
there.
offices
A
and
very complicated situation.
but we want more.
But
But also it
if
is
you're in a
important.
country where people can even eat rats because they need a district.
Oh no, okay.
People are
so-
eating rats.
No,
in
rats are
other
edible.
countries. Please don't talk about
According to
rats
the
like
UN,
that,
rats are
because
edible.
in China, people are eating their rats. It's a delicacy, just like people here eat grasshoppers.
There is a particular type of rat that is very high in protein.
Okay, Chantal, how do you know this?
I know because I know someone who works with the UN and she's a nutritionist. So they roll out some of these campaigns and programs to help these areas that are prone to hunger and famine. So they give them these rats to feed on because they're very high in protein.
Okay, speaking about protein, I don't know if water has proteins, but you told me about something that happened at Lake Victoria yesterday.
Yes. A boat on Lake Victoria capsized, comprising of about 35 people, and 9 were rescued and about 20 confirmed dead. This boat was carrying food and people and fish as well, and according to the reports, it is believed that the reason as to why this boat capsized was because it was overloaded, which is among the most common reasons cited for almost all the accidents that take place on Lake Victoria, because we've had a number of them, both in when I talk about Lake Victoria, I'm talking about even with the countries in which it goes, that is Kenya, Tanzania, and then Uganda. So I think we haven't learned enough. We might need to dig deeper and understand why do we have these accidents happening for almost the same reason. And then the fact that people are dying, should we also now examine the regulations put in place in terms of how safe are the people who are using the water transport.
How safe are the boats?
The
that
boats
people are
themselves
using for
use
water
it.
transport?
The boats used, the gear that is supposed to be used, and then of course also regulating how many people and what quantity. You see, when you are using road transport and you're in a bus,
Yes.
there are checkpoints that are going to check whether you have the 65 or more. You get, even the taxis, you don't have to do more than 14 people.
14%,
So are there
yes.
such regulations that are being enforced? They could be there, but are they being enforced to make sure that we reduce these accidents that are happening? It could be a transportation means that is not very popular, but if people are dying, over 20 people dying, it's not supposed to be something we take lightly.
Yeah, life is life, and any life lost at any particular point
But I'm just
is
thinking
worth.
to myself, in Uganda there is a saying, akasanke kakulemye okuvaaga ate ovaaga munganga, meaning you fail to do the little things, then you're going for the bigger things.
So what would be the
We
little
failed to
things in this
effectively
case?
implement some of these laws on road, where a traffic officer can easily stand. Now that is why there have been a number of initiatives to do that on water, but it becomes a problem because there was a time when we lost over 30 people. That was in 2018, the M. Templar boat.
Yes.
You know, but they will tell you funny things as you are leaving, we are doing. So there is so much water transport. We've emphasized on illegal fishing. Government has put so much effort on illegal fishing,
And
but
yet there are people traveling,
but
on
not
water.
so much emphasis
But also on
passenger
travel.
boats.
Yes.
Huh?
And actually, what you call passenger boats, on most of these boats applying the Lake Victoria route, most people are actually traveling on fishing boats. And even that MV Templar boat that killed over 35 people was a fishing boat carrying more than 100 people. So we need to look into the boats that are carrying our people on these lakes. Are they effective? Should they be carrying people in the first place? But we will look into that maybe at a later date, or have someone come here and speak to us on a GMU agenda, because these are conversations we must be having, and we need to have people in positions of power, people that are responsible to tell us what are they doing, because it's not enough for us to just have reports.
Right, and maybe the last thing could be the other reason that was attached was the weather element, and what has been put in place. For example, if you are going to fly, you're a pilot, you know the route you're going to use, and there is a weather forecast. There is everything put in place for you to be able to move, knowing I cannot use this route because of the weather. There are certain times when airplanes cannot fly in certain areas because the weather is not good. Or there is a certain altitude they cannot go because of such conditions. Do we have such measures put in place for our people to know at what points do they move, at what time do they move, so that they're guided and they know that if someone moves, at least we've seen that there is an initiative that was put in place, and this initiative was not considered by the people who are
I think if you look deeper and search further, you're going to find that these initiatives are there, but most of them are on paper. They're not being implemented. That's why I'm like, we must have this conversation at some point and see if these things are really off the paper. Because honestly speaking, when you look at many things affecting us in this country, whether it is road transport or health, we have policies, the best policies, but they are on paper.
Very true.
Anyway, well, let's look into some of our local stories this morning as we go along.
Well, we'll begin with a political story regarding the electoral roadmap for 2025-2026, and the Electoral Commission launched this roadmap that will cost the country 1.3 trillion, calling on government to expedite the enactment and amendment of relevant electoral rules to avert contractions when the public procurement process begins. The Commission Chairperson, Justice Simon Byabakama, invited different political stakeholders for the digestion of the roadmap for effective and efficient implementation.
And moving on to Lake Victoria, a boat that was carrying 30 passengers transporting goods from Chamuswa County to Kasenyi landing site capsized, and some people, number not yet identified, drowned in Lake Victoria. Fisheries attribute the accident to the seasonal strong winds that happen in the month of May, June and July, although the boat that was carrying goods was also allegedly overloaded. Survivors of the capsized boat that was transporting goods from Chamuswa County to Kasenyi landing site with 30 passengers on board last night narrate how they managed to escape death. Despite the strong winds on the waters, survivors said the boat was overloaded with bags of charcoal and sacks of cassava and sweet potatoes, and when they tried to complain, no one bothered. They are now traumatized after seeing the friends struggling with life for rescue, but in vain, hence losing their loved ones.
And moving to Parliament, the Parliamentary Committee on Infrastructure has rejected the report by the Ministry of Works and Transport on registration of digital number plates owing to lack of concrete information more on the registration costs. The report presented by the Minister of State for Transport, Fred Byabakama, indicated that the cost of registration for both motorcycles and vehicles stood at 735,000 shillings.
And speaking matters ICT, the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, has applauded telecommunication companies for the 5G rollout to help in Uganda digital transformation. The minister was officiating at the MTN launch and demonstration of 5G network at Uganda Communication Commission's headquarters in Bugolobi. The Executive Director, Uganda Communications Commission, Irene Kagwa Sewankambo, commented on MTN's 5G dedication to digital inclusion and recognized its positive impact on the nation. MTN CEO Sylvia Mulinge believes that this milestone will play a pivotal role in driving ICT solutions for economic growth.
Moving away, let's get to the international stories. Ex-US President Donald Trump has lashed out at prosecutors on the eve of his court appearance on charges of plotting to overturn his 2020 election defeat. The unprecedented incident shows the corruption scandal and failure of the US under Joe Biden's presidency, he wrote on social media. Security is being ramped up in Washington, D.C. for Thursday's, which is today's hearing. Mr. Trump already faces 2 other criminal cases as he campaigns for the White House next year. But the election case he was charged with on Tuesday is widely seen as the most serious one of all. In all capital letters post in his Truth social platform on Wednesday, Mr. Trump was at his Bedminster, New Jersey Golf Club, thanked his followers and said, "I never had so much support on anything before." Away from that, the death toll from a suicide bombing in Pakistan has risen to 63, according to officials. And as Prime Minister the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said Afghan citizens had been involved in a spate of recent attacks. The blast on Sunday targeted attendees at a rally for the religious political party in the tribal district of the northwestern Pakistan. The Pakistani military previously spent years fighting the Pakistani Taliban in the region before declaring the district clear of rebels in 2016. So far, 63 people have died in the suicide bombing, a spokesperson of the state-run hospital said as of yesterday. Another 123 people who were wounded in the attack near the Afghan border are being treated. This is according to the hospital official. Moving on, West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS sent a delegation to Niger on Wednesday to negotiate with the military officers who seized power in last week's coup, while regional defense chiefs began a 2-day meeting in the neighboring Nigeria. The Economic Community of Western African States has imposed sanctions on Niger and said it could authorize the use of force if the coup leaders do not reinstate elected President Mohammed within a week from last Sunday. The military option is the very last option on the table, the last resort, But we have to prepare for the eventuality, said Abdel Fattah Musa, ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security. And speaking matters climate, human-caused global warming made July hotter for 4 out of 5 people on Earth, with more than 2 billion people feeling climate change boosted warmth daily, according to a flash study. More than 6.5 billion people, or 81% of the world's population, sweated through at least one day where climate change had a significant effect on the average daily temperature, according to a new report issued on Wednesday by Climate Central, a science nonprofit that has figured a way to calculate how much climate change has affected daily weather. We really are experiencing climate change just about everywhere, say the Climate Central Vice President for Science, Andrew Pashing.
Well, we will also have a look at some of the headlines in our local dailies, and we will start with the New Vision this morning. The New Vision is running with a front page headline saying government names best circles. You will find this story in the New Vision when you buy it. And of course, above that, security busts deadly Kampala gang. This story is on page 10. And over 320 tenders. What is this all about? Well, it offers in Global Health, Children and Women's Hospital, Bujagali Energy, St. Mary's College, Chisubi and Luka, and many others. You will find those stories in today's paper when you buy it this morning. But of course, border borders banned from the city center. If you are a road user that uses border borders, you need to know more about this story, and you will find it on page 4 in the New Vision. And in series, Ajon, the brew that binds Iteso. Interesting story there on page 26 and 27. And over 20 die in Kalangala boat disaster. You will get more details on that. And also, President Museveni meets Japanese foreign minister. Those are the stories you're going to find in the New Vision, but of course there will be more once you get the paper.
And in today's copy of the Daily Monitor, you will find 25 drowned in a Lake Victoria boat accident. That is the main headline. Also, you will find Electoral Commission sets nomination dates for 2026 polls. The full story is on page 7. Please do not miss that out. And also, Museveni asks Japan to support Uganda on value addition. And man rejected by married woman sets himself ablaze. That is very hilarious. I don't think it's actually sad, it's very hilarious. And the lizard, of course, has something to say. When the heart is not smart. Mm-hmm. And that is why a man said himself. It's not funny, but then the heart is not smart like the lizard has put it.
The problem is we don't usually do regular mental checks.
Thank you very much. When I saw that story, in my mind I was like, if someone decides to kill themselves like that, over a married woman?
There was a research that was done. Was it this year actually revealing how many people have mental challenges in this country? Mm-hmm. Sometimes because it is this mental illness manifests itself in different ways.
Forms.
That's true.
And different forms, and that is the confusion. That is why some people are really sick, but because they have not undressed, they are not beating anybody, mm-hmm. You're not seeing them on the street speaking, mm-hmm. But if you take them to a psychiatrist, they'll be able to tell you that this person must start treatment now or even be admitted at the National Mental Hospital in Butare.
And you know the thing about mental health and mental health illnesses is because you cannot feel it. There is no high temperature that you say, I have a fever. You get. Someone has to go through something. So we need to know the triggers, we need to know the stressors and be able to avert them or arrest them in time.
I have a question for you just before we go.
Yes.
Do you have time to really care so much about how you're doing mentally, emotionally and psychologically?
You must have the time.
Thank you, that's the word. You must have, but do you have the time when you have to fend for your family every single day? Just asking.
No, your mental health is as important as changing the oil in your car. because people will spend money to go do service for their car.
They don't service themselves.
But they're not
I guess
servicing
that's what we have to
themselves.
preach.
That's why you need good friends around you who can tell you that, brother, sister,
You need help.
I think
Are you
you
okay?
need help. Are you okay?
Yes, so...
But then even just the saying you need help sounds like, are you disrespecting
No,
me?
find a way of saying it gently so that the person doesn't feel insulted. Honestly, we need to check in with our mental health on a daily. What depresses you? What has changed? Do you not want to get out of bed this morning, yet you normally like to arise early? If you see some of these things, it means that something is going on. Maybe you're depressed. I am not a psychiatrist, so I'm not going to diagnose you, but you can read and research and know why you're being affected a certain way. Now, with that being said, we will take a short break and we'll leave you with the song of the day.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning, Uganda. Good morning, Uganda. Once again, we welcome you to this program. Thank you so much for joining us. We do this every morning from 6:30 to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am happy to be here this early morning. By the way, did you know that waking up early is actually good for your health? Now, Benjamin Franklin once said, a man who rises early is not only healthy, they are wealthy and also wise. So I'm hoping that you are one of those people that are wealthy, healthy and wise because you woke up early. And I know that waking up early sometimes is hard for most of us, but yes, we have to do what we have to do because there are advantages to waking up early. But before we go into those advantages, good morning, Chiravo.
A lovely morning to you.
Were you able to wake up early this morning?
Oh, actually, today I had something very interesting. I woke up very early. I don't know why. I lost sleep a bit very early.
Okay.
So I decided to go and prepare myself, get set, then go on the table to do some work, which I sat in the sofa and do some bit of reading, and guess what?
What?
At a certain point I dozed off.
Oh my God.
So I only woke up. Then I'm like, what?
What? And yesterday you were here lecturing us about how you can't be late for work, that your profession calls for you being here on time.
So the mistake I did is waking up, showering, dressing up. Then it was still early for me to move out.
Okay.
That, morning hours. So I said, let me do some bit of sit and read, and somehow sleep got me off. And guess what I was reading about?
What were you reading about?
Yesterday the Electoral Commission released the strategic plan and independent roadmap for the 2025-2026 general elections.
Okay, now before you continue with that, I would like to hear all about it. But good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Oli.
Now, I know that for you and I, this early morning thing is still very new. How are you holding up?
I'm actually doing fairly well. I think
Okay.
it's only because I had taken a bit of a break for some time from the early mornings. The only struggle is that during the day, by the time we get off the show, it's like, say, 9:10.
Exactly.
I get to my workstation and my energy is at around 3 p.m. and someone's energies of early morning, they've just totally got into their day, and me, my energy is already
down.
I feel like my day should be done.
Because your day starts early. It has been happening to me.
Yes.
Normally, I don't have my first meal of the day until about 12 or 1 because I'm not good with breakfast. Now, lately, I was telling you yesterday, I'm like, it's 9 a.m. and I'm very hungry. She's like, because you wake up very early. Your day starts quite early. But waking up early is really good for all of us. Did you know that when you wake up early, it is actually good for you because in the end, you're going to have good sleep. because you woke up early, you're going to go to bed early, and you're going to have good sleep. And for us ladies who love our skins, it contributes to good skin.
Only if you are someone that could, if you're used to sleeping early,
yes,
or if you can adopt to sleeping early, that would help. But there are people who actually have challenges sleeping early.
Maybe people with insomnia.
And sometimes, you see what happened to Cherabo? It could happen to even me, because I was up by like 3 or 2, actually by 2 I was up and I was looking.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are glad to be here this morning and to take you through your morning, usher you into the new day, which is Thursday, the 3rd of August, 2023. Chirabo wanted to tell us something about the election roadmap. Please, I need to know more about it, because I need to know, is it time for me to get my, voter's card? What do I need?
Well, quite a lot of things are entailed in this.
Okay.
Because we're looking at the strategic plan and roadmap for the 2025-2026 Gen elections. What is exciting about it is that we know that on the 12th of January 2026 or 2026, we will be electing the president and members of parliament. So that is there. And also what is very clear is we have to cough 1.3 trillion to organize these elections. We have about 1.9 elective positions in this country. Okay. So we need this bunch of money to give to the Electoral Commission in time so that they can plan very well for us to have smooth elections. But also, the Electoral Commission came up and told now politicians and fellow Ugandans that releasing the roadmap does not mean it is time for you to start campaigns.
Well, well, well.
So, because it is out, you're not supposed to start campaigns. Actually, what is allowed now are what they call consultations, and these are done in a closed...
so
you can consult some of your people, but you don't have this campaign structure.
What if I want to do a consultation, go to my constituents and, consult? Because it's called a consultation,
Well,
right?
the electoral laws dictate and describe what a consultative meeting should be for a politician, for a political aspirant. But as of now, at least everything is out. We know the dates. And also there is a projection that the number of elective positions may increase. Remember, you're supposed to have a census, and the outcomes of the census, if they show numbers are big, then they call for that is more representation. So we may end up seeing more members of parliament from just the 529. The number could increase.
As if the number we have is not big enough.
But my challenge with that is when we finished the last elections, we were talking about the members of parliament being many. President Museveni coming out to say even some of the government institutions have to be merged, something like that. And now we are thinking
of having more members of parliament and more constituents.
Should we say we just go with the moments?
Because when you have more municipalities, definitely when you have more municipalities, they come with members of parliament, they come with another group of councillors and all that. So it's big.
I have seen
these positions.
I have seen information.
Ms. Simon Biabaka explained that the objective of these plans is to improve the operational efficiency, stakeholder awareness and participation, building upon the positive reforms and innovations from the last general elections. Now, I know that for most Ugandans, when they hear election roadmap, they get excited, they think campaigns are going to start, but maybe that's not what it really means. We will have this conversation and we'll delve deeper into this issue so that you may be well informed and you may know what to expect from your leaders and of course the people that you want to choose to represent you come 2026. Chirabo, I will come to you. You know, politics of this country means so much to me, and I believe it means so much to you. Now, when I saw this headline yesterday, of course, like any Ugandan that cares about the affairs, political affairs of my country, I was curious. I'm like, okay, what does this development mean to the electorate?
Well, first and foremost, we all know that we are in a democratic state. of which one of the pillars of democratic governance is having elections. Now, that is also contested, whether free and fair or not, but at least for you to, one of the signs that it is a democratic state, the leadership must have come to power through elections, not through the gun, not through anything else. And that is why that even countries where we've seen leaders of late have coups, they organize elections very fast to justify or authenticate their stay and be recognized globally. Now, Uganda, we always have elections every after 5 years. That's what our constitution says. Those in the term of office expires. And we have a body, which is the Electoral Commission, responsible for organizing these elections. And what they did yesterday, in simple terms, was just to bring out their plan of activities that they are going to do for 2026, 2027, because there are some activities that continue, and also some that are supposed to happen even before 2026 in preparation
of the general
elections. Because, you know, our elections have that grassroots, and then they go on. So these are sometimes into party politics, and later we go to national level. Women councils, you start early. The one who has won chairman, else one goes to chairman. So these do not start on the, they are not the climax of what we see. So the process happens a bit earlier than the actual event that many Ugandans look up to. With the Electoral Commission calendar, actually they launched a calendar of their activities. It was about Ugandans knowing that on such and such a date this is going to happen, on such and such a date this is going to happen, on such and such a date this is going to happen. Because we have a number of activities on our electoral calendar. For example, we have pinning of the voters register, have registration of voters, then you will have various elections at low levels, and finally the climax is what is going to happen on the 12th of January 2026, when we shall be electing the president and electing members of parliament. Now, what does this mean to the individual?
Yes.
The Electoral Commission has given you the dates for you to prepare in time. When Justice Simon Byabakama talks about efficiency and effectiveness, it also goes to how are people prepared for them to be able to vote.
And when we say people being prepared, do we mean should they be looking at checking their names on the voters register, getting registered, because many people
on
have
the
turned
program,
18.
there is a time for that.
Yes.
There is a time for that when the Electoral Commission is going to update its register, register new voters. There's a time for you to where you can even change if the other time you vote in another area, and for reasons under the electoral laws that can allow you to change your voting station, then you can. Do you remember a time when people went to vote and they were told that this is not your voting station this time? But a person says, no, last year, I mean the other 5 years, I voted here. But changes happened. So do you know people who reached and said, I would have voted, but I don't have a national ID.
Is a national ID a requirement for voting?
Of recent, those that didn't have, there is what we call the voter slip. That is, if you were captured by NIRA, you know, and you don't have a national ID, the Electoral Commission could get this information and give you a voter slip for you to present that and vote. So it talks about preparation for you to know that, hey, elections are now here. How do I prepare myself? You know, to see that as an individual, I have what it takes. When these programs begin, you know, I have what it takes. It's like someone telling you that there are going to be job interviews maybe in December by the United Nations. Now, you know when these interviews are going to be there. I'm not at personal level. So you check the documents and everything, so that whatever they require by then, you have it. But also, for those with political aspirations, this is not the time for you to start
Campaigning.
Because the Electoral Commission gave us a date. This day we shall be communicating when they are going to open up campaigns.
Yes.
But there is what they call consultation or consultative meetings. Now, a person with interest can begin consultative meetings under the law.
Yes.
Not outside the law, as described by the law. So it goes to that in terms of how you prepare those with political aspirations and even political parties. But the only unfortunate bit is that yesterday at this very colorful ceremony, I saw a number of political parties that decided to shun, the meeting. The launch, for example, Forum for Democratic Change was not represented, it wasn't there. Alliance for National Transformation was not represented, it wasn't there. National Unity Platform was not represented, it wasn't there.
And you see, when you mention the parties that did not attend the launch of the roadmap, it begs for the question, where are the priorities? Because yes, you may be opposition, you may not agree with some of the policies or the government has made, but at the same time, if you say that you want a democratic state, and then you do not show up for something as important as an election roadmap launch, for me, I wonder, where are your priorities?
Let me take you through the mind of someone on the opposition.
Okay.
Not that I know it very well, but I think I know the basics. If the leader of opposition comes out and says, putting out an election roadmap without putting reforms in place, electoral reforms in place, it's like committing fraud. You understand?
Yes.
That shows you where their heart is, and that shows you that they may not want to be part of it because of some of those reasons. If someone wakes up and tells you, listen, we think these elections in Uganda are just a ritual, it's not just a statement they've made, they're showing you how their mind is working at that moment. So, there is a reason as to why opposition will always be opposition. Or, for lack of a better word to use, let's use the word defiance.
But you
in
see,
a way.
it
And
is
actually, just what Chantel said, Robert Mao, who is the Minister for
Justice and
Constitutional Affairs, who is also the president of DP. So DP was represented because the president was there, came out and asked the Prime Minister that let's expedite the process of having these electoral reforms. Let Cabinet bring them up, let them be debated, let's have the electoral reforms put in place once and for all, because we need them.
Still, when you try to get to the mind of someone on the opposition, some of the reforms that they want put in place, when you trace back to the previous election, we really had a lot of violence that took place. We lost very many people. And some of that can be blamed on militarization of the electoral process. Some of it can be blamed on the electorates. Some of it can be blamed on lack of coordination between or among the security bodies. So many parties had a role to play. So if they are telling you we are not seeing something like that in the reforms, how do you give me a roadmap without first covering the foundation of some of these problems? So you understand that at some point they have a valid reason. However, it doesn't excuse someone not being part of something like that, because it should be their biggest concern. Let's see how we take this election this time around.
And that is where usually the point of contention comes in, because many Ugandans also say that sometimes opposition is hell-bent on being opposition, on opposing everything, being defiant. They will oppose. For instance, this benefits you, me, them. So if you say that you're interested in the elections, except if they are not showing up, means that they're no longer interested in having a democratic process in terms of an election. Because yes, let's face it, we've had some opposition leaders like retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye saying that he does not believe in the election process anymore in this country. If they're coming from that perspective, maybe I would understand, but then they need to come out and tell us.
But no, but they have done that. On a number of occasions, the opposition side has really come out to show its stand. Listen, we're not taking part in this because we're not seeing any reforms. If the leader of opposition says this is fraud, and they're talking about, of course they're talking about the 1.3 trillion, you are telling me that the budget has increased by 60% when you compare it to the previous budget.
Yes.
And this is on projections that by then also the electorates will have increased to around 24 million.
And do you know why the Electoral Commission is saying that the electorate is going to increase to 24 million?
Because we are going to be involving
prisoners and Ugandans in the diaspora. And this is one of the reforms that the opposition has been calling for. They've been advocating for prisoners and Ugandans in the diaspora to be included in the voting process.
Yes.
So maybe it makes some sense.
Well, and also by and large, Electoral Commission budgets have to increase reason population. Even if you do not have the diaspora and prisoners, you're registering a hell list of new voters that are going to join. And also not forgetting, you're still having, they project, and this is factual, that you're going to have even more, not only the number, but more elective positions coming in, because after this census, if it's done, of course, there was still lack of funds, but if the money is availed and we have a census...
Was it lack of funds?
Yes.
Because UBOS also said they had not procured machinery in time.
So let me ask you, Robert and Olive. Why are you putting out an election roadmap before you even handle
the census?
Forget the census. Let's talk about Electoral Commission. You haven't handled the local council elections, apparently because there is no budget. And you're not coming out to even provide a plan, but you're providing a plan for 2026.
And you have a budget of 1.3 trillion, but you cannot afford to raise 59 billion.
Okay, let's say the 1.3 trillion, they're preparing to see how to get themselves funded, and this time they do not have. But what plan have you put in place? How have you settled the hearts of the Ugandans who expected to be electing new local council chairpersons?
You know, that we may not hold the Electoral Commission
of which the local council
so
chairperson is the
accountable,
person on the ground.
because the roadmap that the Electoral Commission issued out even covered LC elections. But what happens is, for them, they are responsible for organizing and conducting elections. Now, Ministry of Finance and government, they are responsible for availing funds. So it doesn't stop them from going ahead with their roadmap and a plan because they are not funds. So they'll tell you, we are ready if funds are available to purchase, to do this, to do that. But the question and my worry would be, you've not had a census because the reason was finances. You've not had LC1 elections because the reason was finances. We are looking at activities that are soon commencing on this roadmap. And these, you require money. Electoral Commission has always expressed, one, they need to get this money in time for successful procurements, for creating voter education, because you must also understand, we don't have enough voter education in this country. That is why in most elective positions, we have invalid votes. You have people who reach there, they don't know what to do. Our pattern of voting also indicates we don't have sufficient voter education. That is why someone will tell you that I'm electing a member of parliament to take my children to school.
And that's it.
I'm electing a member of parliament because this man buys booze. Then a member of parliament, I'm going to do, if you listen to this campaign,
I'm going to vote for so-and-so because he attends barriers.
Things that a member of parliament does not do. But
sorry to cut you short. What you're trying to do right now is like an overhaul of mindset change from the deepest of villages in the country. And I want you to understand that every individual and every family has what they term as priority. And let's also not forget that when you get to speak to some of these people, some of them are really tired. They don't want to be involved in politics, of serious politics. They want someone who's going to provide what they need in the moment. They're not bothered. The day,
they never get actually.
Exactly.
Because these people don't have resources. Now, if they had the right information, they would be able to tell someone, for example, Chantel and
Olive.
Olive. It's very hard for someone to come asking for your vote and give you such information.
Because,
I'm a voter, and I've seen this campaign.
I have
so
this information with me.
you know,
because
so
I read,
if I'm looking for your
research.
vote, if I want you to vote for, I'm not going to come and tell you, Olive, I'm going to construct hospitals. No, I'll look at policy level. Olive, I have this knowledge. I'm a journalist. I've done this. We're going to change this. I'll even come with laws. We're going to change media laws and this.
Well,
So
so
best believe that when I come to you as a politician, I'm going to come and give you what we call lip service. Everything you need to hear. Now, when this politician is going to that village, they know what that person wants. What do they want? That's what they're going to give them. That's what they're going to preach. That is why someone is going to say, I elected this person because of this reason. Your kids will be able to go to school, be on my campaign team. I'm going to pay school fees for your kid for 1 year. They even put the money on the table.
You know why? Because the Electoral Commission has not done, and civil society as well, civic education and voter education. And many times they have said, we do not get sufficient money. So with the budget they give us, we look at priorities.
Now,
voter material,
yes.
having the materials there, the security, do you have the constables, they look at, do you have the staff that are going to conduct this, and they don't forget, but the budget does not allow them. So
now,
my worry
of the budget.
My worry is, will the Electoral Commission get the money it has asked for?
Okay.
Because most of the time their budget has been reduced. For
And
three consecutive elections we've had,
one wonders
the Electoral Commission
why-
budget has been cut and reduced.
One wonders why, for something that important, you'd have the budget reduced. But anyway, speaking still about the budget, it says that part of this 1.3 trillion shillings that the Electoral Commission is budgeting for the next election of 2026, they say that in 2023-2024 financial year, the Commission will require at least 195 billion shillings. And in 2024-25, the Commission will use 569 billion shillings for electoral activities, and in the financial year 2025-26 the Electoral Commission will require at least 622 billion shillings to conduct the general elections.
The monies is a very big challenge. Electoral Commission, I've had Paul Bukenya, I've had I've had Justice Vyabakama, I've had the Secretary Molekwa. They have all said that, one, money is not available on time. Two, continuously, if they budget for 60 billion, for example, the Electoral Commission had looked at 60 billion for LC and LC1 and LC2s. Government then said you can have a 59. That's
Well,
a billion
that was
gone.
a
But
difference
still,
of just 1 billion shillings. I
but
can
still,
understand that.
Even that, because you have an extension of 6 months for the local council leadership. But if this expires and there's no extension, I guarantee you, you'll find it hard for government to give the 59. They may say we've been able to. So funds are very, very critical at this particular time.
True. If you would like to join this conversation, please reach us on our social media handles. That is at UBC TV Uganda. And of course, you can text us on the number that you see on your screen. Going back to Chantal, you had something to say.
Yes, I wanted to ask Chirabo something. We do understand the part of budget cuts. However, as an entity or as an organization, how are your priorities? Let's just go back to the basics of what is the role of the Electoral Commission, or why do we vote? And I'm going to ask you a very golden question. Why would you put up elections when the people who are supposed to be taking part in these elections do not have the right information and are not well equipped for them to be able to vote so that you have a successful election? You understand? If we are talking about mindset change, let's get back down to our budget has been slashed. What are our priorities? How do we plan for this? I also earlier wanted to ask you, imagine you're a manager of an entity and this particular department has to perform. And at some point, they fail to perform on a task. But then they're telling you we do not have money for this very task. So you as the manager, how would you look at this entity? This entity has only come to you with they've done a problem statement. They have not even proposed solutions. So you're telling me you don't have the 59 billion for the LC elections, but you're not telling me what is your plan. You understand? Now it's supposed to be the MPs in Parliament to say, okay, let's see if there can be an instrument put in place by the president so that we wait till the next election, or and then you get what I'm trying to say.
But aren't we being a bit harsh on the Electoral Commission? Because I believe they have done their job of making sure there is an electoral roadmap. They were prepared for the LC1s and LC2 elections, because they don't give themselves money.
Right.
They do what they're supposed to do, due diligence, and then they go back to the Minister of Finance to provide these funds. And then I remember a statement that the Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, made when it came to the LC1 elections. He said, we have bigger things to attend to right now. So we don't have the funds. And that left a sour taste in my mouth. I'm like, wait, bigger things? This is big, because this is the smallest unit of government.
Thank you. The question is, when your budget was cut and you did not have money, you realized, okay, the budget is cut. Did you go back to the drawing board and figure out what are we not going to attend to, which is priority, and our plans are like this? Then after that, you report to the funder or your manager and let them know, hey, listen, this is what we had in plan. However, we are going to move like this because of this. Was that reported? Was the ministry aware that that the LC elections were not going to be possible because there was a budget cut? I'm just saying, if there was a budget cut and they could not manage to
well, unfortunately, the information we got was what the Electoral Commission proposed for that, government simply said we do not have. So it didn't even come up with what they were going to give them. But the biggest challenge I also see now, the roadmap is out, very good, implementing it timely is what we require, and funds available. But also must look at voter confidence within the Electoral Commission. You see, we are looking at a free and fair election that is supposed to be organized, that are the various elections that are supposed to be organized by the Electoral Commission. And for me, the biggest challenge at such a point is not the funds, because I believe for such a big deal, money will be availed. It may not be sufficient. It may not be what was budgeted for. It's not the debts, because I know the debts are already put in place. My only question has been, how do you put a single day for verification of academic qualifications on this roadmap? Previously, there have been about 2-3 days. Now it's going to be 1 day.
And we know that our leaders,
and we know a number of leaders who have been brought out of parliament, various elective positions because of academic qualification and verification of their documents. I think this is very important, because whenever a court declares a seat empty, vacant,
then we have a by-election.
Then we have a by-election.
And now we need a supplementary
And that by-election, much as the Electoral Commission has a prospected budget, and they have for such eventualities, costs Ugandans money.
Exactly.
I want to tell you, by-elections are expensive.
Very.
So how do we avoid by-elections that are not as a result of death? Because death could be inevitable. Unfortunately, yes, we lost members of parliament due to accidents,
yes,
which I don't call accident. That maybe was a preventable death. But death could be very inevitable. We lost our speaker, Jacob Bolanya. That's what I call a natural death. He fell sick and all that, given the best treatment, but God called him. So this is why I looked at this roadmap and I'm like, hell, what has gone wrong? We need actually more days to ensure that we verify, we look at these academic qualifications.
And also, away from the academic actually, before we get off the academic qualifications, many members of parliament, like you said, have lost their seats because they didn't have the required academic qualifications. So even 3 days, the 3 days we had in the past, I still think that they are few, because how many members of parliament do we have? Right now we have about 500 something.
And remember how many contexts, leave alone the ones that go through the 529.
Oh, yes.
But for every elective position.
Yes.
Politics being one of the most paying jobs in Uganda, it should be a service. But let's truth be told.
It has become a job.
If any of us became a member of parliament, man, you've hit a jackpot. You know you're going to have a car that maybe you've never dreamt of. Money
Over
is
20
available
million
there.
in salary.
You have allowances and all that. So it is one of the most paying avenues to venture into. That's why people sell their homes. People go for
Sell
loans,
their land.
invest so much because they know this money is going to come out. I recently saw a story of one politician who said bought a ticket, a party ticket at 95 million.
Whoa. That is like how you give a donation to a university.
You know,
I
for you,
would
that particular party,
too. Yeah.
to say that we've endorsed you as our candidate.
Hey.
People will tell you how much they paid. People in NUP
I
members
actually
of
had
parliament.
a story
Go
of
to
someone
NRM, you have
who
to
will
cough
come
about
to
3
you.
million.
No.
So, you're going to have very many people this time. You're going to have so many candidates for every elective position. Because
And
a
you're
person-
giving them one
and you're
day.
giving them a shorter time, yet the outcomes of this are very expensive because in elections in Uganda, however small they are, look at Oyam, they will be beating.
So we have to
There may be
to
loss
budget
of
for
lives.
beating and loss of lives.
There may be loss of lives. Also, the money. So our elections, we should do as much as possible to avoid a by-election. It's not only about spending, but what goes with a by-election. So I found that a bit wanting.
Also, now let's have let's look at the inclusion of prisoners and Ugandans in the diaspora. I, for one, believe that it is a step in the right direction, because being in prison does not make someone not a countryman. They are still Ugandans. And also, Ugandans in the diaspora have over time wanted to be part of the electoral process. And if the Electoral Commission is now considering joining them, bringing them to the table of the electoral process, that is a good thing. But my question here is, yes, it sounds exciting, but have we put resources and mechanisms in place to make sure that that too runs smoothly, especially now? Can they fairly vote, especially prisoners?
You see, the commission had no option because this was not, actually in the previous elections, we were supposed to have that done because it had a court ruling upon it, you know. But just that it came out late when you're already almost into the 2021 general elections. There's still so much that the commission, the legal policy that have to be put in place for that to actually happen. Much as it's prospected that it could happen, but we still have so many technicalities to see it come through. But also importantly to note is voting by proxy, or our brothers in the diaspora voting and all that, has so many challenges. We here back home, we are still dealing with issues of trust.
That's why I asked, can they fairly
the Electoral Commission
vote?
Actually, I don't have the recent research conducted, but we've had various researches being done on how Ugandans, the confidence levels they have in their Electoral Commission, the national electoral body. And you find that it's not so much very good, you know. So, voting, people in diaspora voting will require more resources. Good, they have indicated that. But also, are we is it something that with all the baggage and that we are, because you can chew more than you can swallow.
And you get choked.
And you get choked. I hope by the time we reach to the voting, what is required to be put in place. I saw Tanzania, no, it was Kenya doing it recently.
Even Rwanda does it.
Even Rwanda does it, where people went to their embassy and all that, then transporting. Second, what area are we going to cover in the diaspora?
Yes, that is very important.
How
because
many
there
countries?
is North America, there is
we
Europe,
look, our law
there is
stipulates time within which we should have announced the win of our elections.
Yes.
It is by law that within these 48 hours you must have a winner.
And within these hours, the returning officer should have
declared.
given us the
So
winner.
if you are going to have people in China,
Time differences.
and all that, how are we going to capture in that?
Then we're going to have to factor it in. And
are we going to extend our time when we should get a winner? Are we going to go to a country which had a whole week of waiting?
Have we done
like Kenya did?
Research
and remember how hard it was that time? We are here in Uganda, but also we're wondering who is winning that. So are we going to have those amendments happen for us to have people in diaspora? How are we going to build trust and confidence that the votes that are coming,
we are going to get?
If you have problems with the results here at home,
yes,
where you have people at the polling station watching and counting, polling agents, how are these political parties going to be able? You know, some political parties participate in elections, but don't even have polling agents to facilitate them. So it's a
material gets there late, yet they are within the country.
In Uganda, there's a time when the material in Kampala reached late, yet that in Kotido had arrived.
That's
so
true.
It is a whole complicated scenario that we are venturing into. When we go to the prisoners, that is very easy because they're in our prisons and they're voting, but also
they are prisoners and they're in prison. That's the question.
I don't know who it favors. And I don't know if these reforms will come in, and if we shall have all it takes to put the proper legal framework to allow people in diaspora and people in prisons to vote. For prisons, that is very easy, but diaspora, there is so much complication. Because if you're saying it is a right for Ugandans in diaspora to vote, do they vote for all levels? Or do they vote for only the president? You know, because a person in diaspora, do they vote for a member of parliament of their constituency back home?
Or just
is that
the president?
Fair? Or they should only vote for the president?
Pertinent questions being posed by Robert Chirabo, and honestly speaking, I think everyone should be biting on these and thinking deep on these ones. And also speaking about the numbers of voters for the next election, the numbers projected, the country is expected to have 8 new city divisions, 37 constituencies, 1,000 sub-counties, 9,000 additional parishes, and 3,310 parishes and 9,500 villages by 2026.
Now, each of those, when you hear new, there is a leader or leaders. When you talk of a municipality, you know what it calls for. MPs, mayors.
And that means we are looking at having our parliament bloated once again.
Oh, definitely. We are going to have
and yet we have been advocating for lessening.
Reducing the members of parliament and reducing the ministers as well, or merging bodies. But do you ever explore the bit of the reasons as to why these sub-counties and municipalities and all these cities are put in place?
Well, one of the things is there is a belief that decentralization that comes with more leadership, again, when you go to elective positions, is when people have leaders closer to them, their views are more captured. Of course, political representation could be falsification in one way, because we've had a number of issues come to parliament and the electorate are asking their members of parliament, you know, for us we don't support what
they even went to beat him up or beat her.
Yes, but for him is sure. He stood up and then the speaker said, the ayes have it. There are 2 scenarios where I've seen people, and some of them never returned to parliament because the electorate had not told them to extend term limits.
Right.
The electorate had not told them to remove age limit. But for them, they were very clear and saying that for me, yet there was time for consultation.
Right.
So
but do
sometimes,
they even consult?
So sometimes we have issues of political representation being falsification when it's not really true. But the initial purpose was that when you have leaders closer to the people, they'll get their views and take them to powers that be. And they'll also be able to get information from there and bring it down to the people. Unfortunately, sometimes this is not the case. But remember, for every time we have a census and population increase, then you will say this population qualifies for a village now. With these populations now, a sub-county. Now this qualifies for this level. And of course, you'll have more representation come in.
What is the use of having all these sub-counties, municipalities, and cities when we can't even, if we're setting them up for administration purposes or administrative purposes, they don't even have administrative offices?
Well, we have some comments from our social media, and they didn't give us their name. Oh, it is Cricket Derek Gagamel from Makinde, and he says, "Good morning, family. Away from planning for further elections, the Electoral Commission is challenged to sensitize voters to engage in their programs because people seem to have shunned them." Derek says that numbers are dropping every after 5 years according to the statistics. So instead of discussing their budgets, let them take their eyes on how to boom the body itself and attract more people's trust towards it. Well, thank you so much for weighing in, Derek Gagamel from Makinde Luafu. We appreciate your feedback.
And that is evident if you have a launch of the strategic plan and roadmap, and you have leaders of key political parties shunning that, you know, because we may not sit in a comfortable zone and say because Alliance for National Transformation didn't turn up, it is okay. They're opposition. It has people that follow and believe and trust in it. We cannot sit and say because NOP did not turn up, that is NOP, their opposition. You know, they have people they represent. It's a party. It's now the leading opposition party. We can't say FDC with all its struggles and challenges, they didn't turn up. Those ones are also having their issues. For the Electoral Commission, this must sound bells of alarm.
That's very true.
When statistics indicate that for elections we are holding, the voter turn-up is reducing, you have to go back and find out. Even when you look at how many people sometimes, those that are on the register, there could be many sometimes. But when you go to understand how many turned up to vote, you're shocked. The numbers are dwindling. So you must build voter confidence and voter trust.
That might be a bit complicated for the Electoral Commission that has really become unpopular one of these days. Let's agree.
Well, this conversation
is a successful successful election. So
successful is subjective to them, to every individual. Even the opposition will tell you, no, that it was not successful. So we cannot gauge the popularity of the commission on the commission and a few members of the public. No.
Well, like I said in the beginning, this conversation is very crucial to all of us Ugandans, and I can see that my colleagues right here are very passionate about matters Electoral Commission, matters voting process, and of course general elections in the country. I am so happy that you are still with us this morning. We will be looking at some of the dailies in the East African region.
Great. I will start off with a Daily Nation in Kenya. Make or break crisis talks, and local and international pressure forced warring parties to negotiate as Ruto confronts high costs of living. Meanwhile, Labour dispute, Safaricom ordered to pay former call center staff 2.5 million shillings for crippling voice loss. And so much is happening in Kenya. State bans world coins operations, and also court suspends permits for loggers as minister defends lifting of ban. Full stories you will find in the Daily Nation, and that is the Kenyan paper. So please, if you can, grab yourself a copy and find out what is happening with your neighbor.
I decided to go to Tanzania this morning, and
your neighbor,
and I choose to look at what the citizen has for us. Why tougher times? A beacon. Now they give you more of what is happening there, fuel costs, high cost of living. Then Aga Khan to introduce integrated electronic health record system. And still the Tanzanian paper brings you more regarding poultry sector set for major uplift, well, for the poultry farmers there, and what makes some CMGs debt traps. But still, they're giving you, the Citizen brings you more on actually the national accolades, how NMB bagged 3, that is Euro Money Awards. But these and more are in the Citizen this morning.
Well, you're still watching Good Morning Uganda. We will take a short break and we'll be right back.
Step into the future of African coffee at the second G25 Africa Coffee Summit hosted by Uganda. The summit will be held at Speak Resort Munyonyo from the 8th to the 10th of August 2023. Heads of state from Africa's 25 coffee growing nations and coffee value chain actors will delve into the theme, Transforming the African Coffee Sector Through Value Addition. The summit is a defining moment for Africa's coffee growing nations. It's time to listen, innovate, and invest in Africa's coffee future, ignite the potential of African coffee. Organized by the Government of Uganda through the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries and Uganda Coffee Development Authority in collaboration with the Inter-African Coffee Organization.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Amaina gange ninze tusuubira lyaga Margaret. Ndi Munawanyago Tailors Association Sako ey'emyoga. Tuli batunzi ba byalaani. So ife nga Nawanyago Sako twafunako emiliyoni 8 era bagiire nga badiiza mpola mpola ate nga bwe bongera n'okusavingaku. Era akasente ako katuyambyeku katutoolaku wetwali katwongeraku eidaala okusobola okweyamba n'okwesitula mu maka gaife n'okulabirira famire gaife. Era tutwala omukisa guno okwebaza gavumenti yaife eya Muzeeyi Museveni Yoweri Kaguta Tibwabulwa olw'okutuyamba ife abantu abawansi.
Step into the future of African coffee at the second G25 Africa Coffee Summit hosted by Uganda. The summit will be held at Speak Resort Munyonyo from the 8th to the 10th of August 2023. Heads of state from Africa's 25 coffee growing nations and coffee value chain actors will delve into the theme, Transforming the African Coffee Sector Through Value Addition. The summit is a defining moment for Africa's coffee growing nations. It's time to listen, innovate, and invest in Africa's coffee future, ignite the potential of African coffee. Organized by the Government of Uganda through the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries and Uganda Coffee Development Authority in collaboration with the Inter-African Coffee Organization.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Beautiful morning here on the 3rd of August 2023. Thank you so much for keeping it. Good morning, Uganda. And here today, we will be delving into the traffic updates for this morning. But before we do that, do you know that some of the tires that you're using on your car may be substandard? Yesterday, Uganda National Bureau of Standards decided to rein in people that are selling substandard tires. So before you buy your tires and put them on your car, you need to be sure that you're buying them from the right place, that they are up to standard. So you may need to do research before you decide to buy the tires, because let's face it, away from your engine, the tires are the ones that take you everywhere. It's just like shoes, you know, you wear shoes everywhere, so you need to make sure that your shoes fit well, they are not tight, they are comfortable. The same applies to the tires that you put on your car. So you need to look into that before you think about anything else. It is very important, and it will help us, you know, get rid of, reduce the number of accidents that we have on our roads. And of course, we don't want it to be a victim. But anyway, speaking matters traffic, we will be delving into the traffic updates for this morning, and we will pick it up from Bombo Road around La Grande Hotel, that is just after the bypass. Yes, the traffic seems to be a little bit there, but like I usually say, when it comes to roundabouts, there is traffic because many roads are trying to join one route. It's the one exit route, mainly the one that usually leads into the main city center. So you may spend a few minutes around the Waise roundabout, that is the bypass. There is the flyover up, but mainly down as you proceed to areas of Sir Apollo Kagwa Road. So you need to prepare yourself, but it won't be a long time. You will just be there for maybe 10 minutes. It doesn't look that bad as you proceed to other parts of the country. But anyway, let's also look at areas of Christian Life Church as you go to Kubiri and of course Wandegea. Those do not look bad at all. You will be able to move smoothly into wherever that you're going. But then around Kalere Market, there seems to be lots of traffic, and of course it's building into the roundabout. That route usually has a hold up because there are many travelers from areas of Gayaza, areas of Kalere, and most of them are trying to access the roundabout and get into the city center. So you may be held up a bit there. But now if you look at the Kampala Northern Bypass, there is smooth flow of traffic, so you won't be held up there. Of course, around Mulago at Kisingiri Street, there is some bit of traffic, so you need to know that you may be there for a bit of 10 minutes. It's not so much. Today the traffic looks better than it was yesterday because I think it's not raining. Anyway, as we move along into the areas of Mawanda Road, there seems to be a bit of traffic, but it is moving smoothly, so you won't even need to turn off your engine because you're held up in traffic. It is moving smoothly, so you will be able to move. But then around Chitante, the traffic seems to be a little bit of a hold up, so you may be held up a bit. Now around Tufnell Drive, yes, that junction from Mawanda Road joining Tufnell Drive, there seems to be some bit of hold up. You might be there for about 20 to 25 minutes because because of the sharp T junction. There are many people that are trying to cross over, and there are many people that are trying to get to the other side of the road, so you might be affected. But the good news is when you reach Tufnell Drive itself, the traffic now is more smooth, so you will be able to move to wherever you're going in just a bit. And around Acacia Avenue, the traffic doesn't look bad, except when you're trying to access Acacia Avenue from using that makeshift roundabout that the authorities put there. I don't know why it is there, because in most cases it contributes to traffic instead of helping in reducing traffic flow in the city center. Other roads seem to be good, so if you're going to the city center and you're using these routes, you should be able to get there in no time. Well, that's all we had for you for the traffic updates this morning. I'm hoping that you have such a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you remember to buy good tires for your car. This is Good Morning Uganda, and Robert will be coming to you with the Good Morning Uganda agenda.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
The biggest, the baddest East African Christian Marathon is here. Come participate at the East African Christian Marathon for a prayer run on the 13th of August 2023 at the Lugogo Hockey Grounds. Come represent your family at the prayer run and run for a good cause to build the first call center, which will be East Africa's virtual listener. Come for the prayer run alongside your pastors, leaders, representatives from Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, South Sudan, and of course Uganda. Participate with Honorable Captain Mike Mukula, who is the chief runner and patron. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Make your donation for your kid now from 20,000, 30,000, and 100,000 Uganda shillings, because runs change the world. For more details, call 0781 885 055 or visit our website at www.eastafricachristianmarathon.org. Proudly sponsored by PKF, UBC, Venro Health, Aquafina, and Moving Preacher.
I'm Kisame Andrew, cold chain technician. Attached to Kalio District Local Government in the health department. The vaccines come when they're in the truck, which is refrigerated from NMS. I receive them, so I load these vaccines. There are some cold boxes I put in those containers, then I take to the facilities. Even in the facilities, there are fridges. We are so grateful to the government of Uganda, because each and every health center 3 and 4 in Kalio district has a refrigerator. Once they reach there, I offload them. I also put them in the fridges. These facilities have scheduled outreaches whereby they have to go to the community, to the villages, communities, and make sure that they vaccinate. So they also have small containers which are called vaccine carriers, which they put on their back, of course with some ice to maintain the temperature. So that when they mobilize, the community mobilizers, the VHTs, the LOC ones do mobilize the communities in gazetted outreaches which are already gazetted. They come and also workers find the clients there, and then they do vaccinate there.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
In fulfillment of the constitutional obligation, which mandates the state to make reasonable provision for the welfare and maintenance of the aged, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is implementing the Social Assistance Programme for Empowerment, SAGE, designed to provide income security and reduce poverty among older persons. Over 300,000 older persons in 146 districts in Uganda have benefited from the grants. The income security has made life better for eligible older persons aged 80 years and above, registered with the National Identification Registration Authority, NIRA.
Amanya gange nzero obisa Rwanga tulaka mu LC1 Kasaala. Nina emyaka 9. Amawulire ga ssente z'abakadde nagafuna nga gava LC1 Kasaala. Essente ezo zinyambye mu byokulya, gula sukaali, sabbuuni, buli kimu nga bw'okimanyi kyawaka. Ate nina abazzukulu nina bangi. Waliwo omwana wange yafa yandekera abazzukulu, ate nga n'omulenzi omukulu annyamba naye nga bamuwummuza ku mulimu. Nembeera awo bwino nga ssente ezo zinnyamba olw'okubanga nti busente butonotono, naye nagasibwamu kubanga tusaka kateera zinnyamba tugenda ntufuna. Waliwo abalima nze sikyasobola, siyimirira, naye abaana abalima addala omulenzi omukulu ankolerako ne muganda wange yajja okunzijanjaba. Nsaba gavumenti etuyambe n'abakadde abalala abatannaba kutuuka nze nabo ebayambe.
This is a message from Expanding Social Protection, ESP, implementing the program under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. ESP, better life chances for all.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
The biggest, the baddest East African Christian Marathon is here. Come participate at the East African Christian Marathon for a prayer run on the 13th of August 2023 at the Lugogo Hockey Grounds. Come represent your family at the prayer run and run for a good cause to build the first call center, which will be East Africa's virtual listener. Come for the prayer run alongside your pastors, leaders, representatives from Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, South Sudan, and of course Uganda. Participate with Honorable Captain Mike Mukula, who is the chief runner and patron. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Make your donation for your kid now from 20,000, 30,000 and 100,000 Uganda shillings, because runs change the world. For more details, call 0781 885 055 or visit our website at www.eastafricachristianmarathon.org. Proudly sponsored by PKF, UBC, Venro Health, Aquafina, and Moving Preacher.
In fulfillment of the constitutional obligation, which mandates the state to make reasonable provision for the welfare and maintenance of the aged, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is implementing the Social Assistance Programme for Empowerment, SAGE, designed to provide income security and reduce poverty among older persons. Over 300,000 older persons in 146 districts in Uganda have benefited from the grants. The income security has made life better for eligible older persons aged 80 years and above, registered with the National Identification Registration Authority, NIRA.
Kigosi Agustino, 86. Sente kyenzikozeemu nayingiza amasannyalaze, firiji n'enjigula. Kale kasente n'akalala akaasigalawo ne mba nga kakola ku bulamu bwange. Siŋŋaanibwa nina omulimu guno. Nga ne munnange bwe twali munnange n'anfaako. Kakati ne nsigala nzekka. Oluvannyuma neefuna abaana bange abo ne bajja okunzijanjaba bampe ku ssente ezo nzijanjabe kole ne ka bizinensi nkagazi. Era gavumenti njebaza olw'akasente akaasooka akampeebwa kuba kakolako bye kankolera.
This is a message from Expanding Social Protection, ESP, implementing the program under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. ESP, better life chances for all.
Previously, in most of these areas that we had prioritized, farmers would produce, but you don't access market because the roads are not there. So you have the middlemen that would have access and they persevere to go into those deep in the villages and they buy with their own prices. They can go there and set prices for you, and yet you're the ones who are producing this food. But now this time with the market linkages, people can now access market because we have bridges that were, streams that were bottlenecks to access by the farmers. It has constructed bridges, so farmers can now reach market.
In fulfillment of the constitutional obligation, which mandates the state to make reasonable provision for the welfare and maintenance of the aged, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is implementing the Social Assistance Programme for Empowerment, SAGE, designed to provide income security and reduce poverty among older persons. Over 300,000 older persons in 146 districts in Uganda have benefited from the grants. The income security has made life better for eligible older persons aged 80 years and above, registered with the National Identification Registration Authority, NIRA.
Abero jog dario yan mi cheze wila ke gina wila ke diang minge luang te ter ko na yat kaya dano pagyo ate wot ken ko nya wila ba te ko nya wila diegi te ko nya wila ka burro ap chen ko nya ke gine ko nya ke gale gine gal tiana de ar gorro per rambur kuna bor ka rom ko nya tin moto te tiri ko nya ke moto motor no man motor ma ko tu agora ana polio gira un poga menne anche la corgina ana copro po matek.
This is a message from Expanding Social Protection, ESP, implementing the program under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. ESP, better life chances for all.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Step into the future of African coffee at the second G25 Africa Coffee Summit hosted by Uganda. The summit will be held at Speak Resort Munyonyo from the 8th to the 10th of August 2023. Heads of state from Africa's 25 coffee growing nations and coffee value chain actors will delve into the theme Transforming the African Coffee Sector through Value Addition. The summit is a defining moment for Africa's coffee growing nations. It's time to listen, innovate, and invest in Africa's coffee future. Ignite the potential of African coffee. Organized by the Government of Uganda through the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries and Uganda Coffee Development Authority in collaboration with the Inter-African Coffee Organization.
And in talking news, MTN has improved on their data voice bundles. You can now call across all networks for the same price. We've talked to several eyewitnesses on the ground, and this is what one of them had to say.
Amos, did you hear about the MTN daily voice bundles?
So, to join many more other Ugandans enjoying these MTN daily voice bundles, dial *100 *21# or use the My MTN app to start enjoying. Stay tuned for more offers from MTN.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
The biggest, the baddest East African Christian Marathon is here. Come participate at the East African Christian Marathon for a prayer run on the 13th of August 2023 at the Lugogo Hockey Grounds. Come represent your family at the prayer run and run for a good cause to build the first call center, which will be East Africa's virtual listener. Come for the prayer run alongside your pastors, leaders, representatives from Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, South Sudan, and of course Uganda. Participate with Honorable Captain Mike Mukula, who is the chief runner and patron. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Make your donation for your kid now from 20,000, 30,000, and 100,000 Uganda shillings, because runs change the world. For more details, call 0781 885 055 or visit our website at www.eastafricachristianmarathon.org. Proudly sponsored by PKF, UBC, Venro Health, Aquafina, and Moving Preacher.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda wange, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning and many thanks for being with us on UBC TV from the hour of 6:30 till now. We'll appreciate your continuous and consistent viewership of our morning show. I am Robert Chirabonyonyitono. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now, this is a segment within a big show, which is Good Morning Uganda. And I just want to let you know that in case you didn't start your morning with us, please make it a date with us every weekday, 6:30. Now, usually in this segment, I have a guest with me with whom we discuss matters, issues of national concern. And today we want to look at something where we've had relative peace, on social media, and that is the plight of domestic workers. We are looking at labor externalization. Just to take you back, government of Uganda does export a service known as domestic or house helpers to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Why am I very specific? Because it is the only country where government of Uganda has a bilateral agreement to allow domestic workers work in that country, and they have a mode of supervision. Yes, there could be so many in the Middle East, but if it is not definitely an agreement, then it's something else. However, there are domestic workers globally, everywhere people are working, but for this case, that is where I have a memorandum of understanding or bilateral agreement. Now, there have been a number of issues, and just last year we saw our government had issues of seeing how best they could renew the contract that had expired between Uganda and Saudi Arabia. Now, by then, it was hard to know what the fate would have been, most of the number of issues that were arising. Today, I happen to be having Nsamba Sharif Ahmed, who is the manager, Africa Affairs at Inga's group of companies. Now, my guest is based in Saudi Arabia. That is Riyadh, but a Ugandan who happens to be home for some few days. He's on holiday. And we say, let's take advantage of that to better understand what is exactly happening. You're most welcome, Sharif, and thank you for finding time.
Thank you, Shirabo. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, Uganda.
Now, to begin with, when we talk about manager Africa Affairs, what does this mean? Because recently we had the government pledging, committing to have labor attaches in this area, but then you happen to be from the private sector.
So Inges is a group of companies that deals in a lot of things, but among those things that Inges deals in is labor externalization. Labor externalization, I happen to manage whatever we do as a group of company that is concerned to Africa. And mostly what we are dealing in so much right now that is concerning Africa is labor externalization. Among the countries from which we recruit workers is Uganda. So basically I manage the sourcing, the recruiting, the supervision, and welfare of the workers who we get from Uganda in India's group of companies.
Now, that said, you talked about welfare of workers, and we know that we have had challenges as a country when it comes to our girls that go to Saudi Arabia. There's been some improvement, but still there's so much that hasn't been put in place. And frequently there comes out media outbursts of a girl claiming, or who has actually been abused. Some claim loss of body parts, others return in not so good a shape compared to how they left this country. There's been scandal after scandal being sorted. Let's understand, where could the problem be?
I think up to now, it is unfortunate that we have not realized where the problem is exactly. And we are focusing so much on giving medication to a disease we are not certain of, or to a disease we have not diagnosed very well. So the problem comes from, and it will be continuous as long as we don't settle down that issue. The problem comes from the government not getting to know that the issue of monitoring, and we've said this very many times, the issue of monitoring is not a responsibility of the private sector. The issue of monitoring, even in the bill that was recently signed, is a responsibility of the Saudi government. And being a responsibility of the Saudi government, it means that the Saudi government can only be supervised by a government, not a private sector, which takes it to be a responsibility of the Ugandan government to ensure that the welfare of the domestic workers, the welfare of the workers who are in those countries is put in place as per the bill which was signed. So this means that the embassy in Saudi Arabia should be given enough support that it requires to ensure that that is done in a proper way. But it's unfortunate that sometimes you wonder, maybe a girl dies, maybe the family complains to the Ministry of Labor that you're not communicating to our family, maybe the family communicates to the police that our daughter is sick, and you find it that the ministry or the government authority calls the company, that company X, what's not happening here? Of which it should be that it is the government which is ensuring that that issue or that matter is being resolved. But the government has left this to be done by the private sector. And these outcries, they will be continuous. Because up to now, the monitoring is still left to be a responsibility of the private sector. It is left to be a responsibility of the recruitment companies, which recruitment companies cannot do. Because a company which is in Kabusu, how can it handle a migrant worker who is in Saudi Arabia in Hail? Hail is, you live here, you go to Saudi, then you also live Riyadh, where maybe it's a 9 hours drive. So how can a company which is in Intinda, a company that is in Makindye, solve a problem which is in Hail? That problem should be solved by who? By the embassy, which is in Saudi Arabia, through the structures that can be put in place to support that. Countries like Philippines, they have done. They have Polo. I think they have branches in each and every city in Saudi Arabia. But we are having an embassy which I think has not more than 7 FSOs, which is taking care of Oman, I think Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, and what I've heard for the past time up to now, even the budget that is being given to the embassy is not enough just to cater for Riyadh. Me as in Jazz right now, I'm having a group of it's closely 8 supervisors who are handling just in Jazz. I think I'm having around 8,000 to 9,000 people who have taken Saudi Arabia. But you are giving the embassy a group of over 500,000 people who are in Saudi Arabia. Which
500,000?
We are closely to that number right now.
Young girls as domestic workers?
Girls and boys.
Oh, girls and boys, yes. Now.
So how is the embassy going to be able to ensure that the welfare of those people is taken care of, who are not even more than 10, whose budget is not proper? So this comes back to the government, that the welfare of the migrant workers who are not only in Saudi Arabia, but everywhere, should be a responsibility of the government. So once the government understands, because for that one I'm sure, if they understand that it's their responsibility and they are convinced. I was wondering, even last time I saw even the budget for the Ministry of Labor was not still okay. So who should be doing these things?
Now, Sharif, how is it hard for government to view things in your perspective, yet this is one of the areas that brings in a lot of money? Our viewer, we are simply and restricting ourselves to domestic workers because, of course, you know, these companies export so much. There is so much in terms of services or labor externalization that we do in this country. You'll find that there are those are security guards in Saudi Arabia, those in marketing and all that, but we've not had so much mayhem coming from other areas except domestic workers. Now, for domestic workers alone, I was looking at money we collect from job orders, per contract, and these are billions, Sharif. Now, this is a cow that gives much milk to government. Wouldn't we blame it on you, the private companies, that you're failing to present your case well before government or the powers that be to understand that, look, this is bringing a lot of money. But if we continue to have these stories, I remember one time Saudi Arabia almost suspended doing business with Uganda because of so much negativity that was being publicized. Let's prioritize this. I find this maybe it could be something easy to understand. These girls, they go out there, they labor so much. We are getting tax, even from the money they are sending to Uganda, taxation. So it is a certain group of people that is doing us so much as taxpayers, so much as government, yet a simple thing as atta cheese remained something. So since 2017.
It will be a simple question that who is presenting government the rate of the incomes that come from coffee? Who is presenting to government the rate of incomes that come from tourists? Who is presenting to government the rate of incomes that are coming from manufacturing? So that it's not about the private sector presenting itself to the government. This is something that is common. This is something that is, it just requires common sense. You've seen the migrant workers that have gone abroad. You know, URA knows how much money came from the job orders last year, the last financial year. The Bank of Uganda knows what were the remittances that came from Saudi Arabia the last financial year. So that doesn't require private sector to come in. Then that's what I've told you, that the government is leaving its own responsibility reluctantly, not because the private sector is not presenting itself. So should we remind the director for URA that please you show the government the last time how much money did you get from the passports? Should we remind the director Interpol how much money did you get from Interpol last time? Should we remind the airport services how much money did they get from tickets last time? So these are things that require common sense. They are the things that require someone to know what responsibility he or she has to do. Because I think people are just there in the offices seated. They are not concerned. People are just there. They have a perspective about labor externalization. They have bias. Because in fact, that is also one of the biggest challenges. People think that whoever takes people abroad is harvesting organs. And that's what even people in offices, that's what even people in police who should be doing thorough investigations to understand the things, they also say, yes, we know people, you harvest organs. But people who are harvesting organs, even yesterday there are licenses that were issued, even today there are licenses that are in process that are being issued. Why is the government continuously giving people licenses to harvest organs of the people to go abroad? And the Ugandans also, they have said it, that no, we want to go and work, there is no jobs here. Why is the airport clearing people to continuously go abroad and have their organs harvested? This only proves that yes, people need to go abroad and work. This only proves that yes, people are sending back money here home. This only proves that yes, the government is receiving billions from this sector. So it doesn't need someone to present him or herself that please government, I've given you this money the last financial year.
You were as a body taking you to come up
all of those people
present the scores.
we don't need to present anything right now. These digits are clear to each and every person's eyes. So it is just people being reluctant in their offices. It is just people not having enough information, because it is still unfortunate. But people up to now, they are ignorant about labor externalization. People up to now, people who have the pen to sign on some documents, ministers, member of parliaments, government officials, security officers, still, they are ignorant about labor externalization. And we don't have an initiative as a private sector that, please, we are going to come and edutain the people in the government, but rather it should be the government to educate us about this labor externalization. Because at the end of the day, who signed the BLA? It is the government.
Yes.
So meaning, if it's the government which signed this BLA, it is its responsibility to ensure that the citizens understand what is in that BLA. It is its responsibility. I always see the president taking people, where do they go? Chankwanzi. RDCs, they go to Chankwanzi.
National Leadership Institute.
Yes, a member of parliament, they go to Chankwanzi. But the president organized the relevant authorities. He takes them to Chankwanzi. If there are not people who can educate them about it, we can come and make them understand what labor externalization is.
Now, that said, let's look at the role of the attaches, because under this memorandum of understanding, one thing that came out clear was, first, the increase of the guarantee money that people deposit. For a company, it was 50 million. Now it is 100 million. That is in case of any eventuality, so that the company, if they don't have money, then these deposits are used to work on issues as repatriating someone, maybe someone has died and the body, all these fracases. So there is no excuse. They'll just simply look at what you deposited and then do that. But another requirement was that for these labor externalization companies, they have attaches in Saudi Arabia. Now, what is the role of these attaches? You're one of these people that is in Riyadh. So what do you exactly do? And what are the qualifications? Because I was having an investigative story regarding some case, and I was shocked to find out that the attaches these people had was a former domestic worker who knew Arabic, and now they said, for you. And I was trying to ask her education level and all. So I stopped in P3, but I came from a very strong Islamic background. Arabic is not a problem to me. I worked my first contract, it ended. I came back to Uganda, came back for my second contract. Then then the company told me, now, so I'm the attaché of this company there. Let's look at your ability to do this work.
So this goes back to you know, me, wherever I'm talking about labor externalization, the challenges we are having, may I always give it to government. Because these labor attaches, yes, I think they are coordinators. That's what we call them. Coordinators, they should be people who do counseling to these workers. They are people who follow the welfare of these workers when they're in the houses, to call them and confirm, how are you doing? Are you getting food? Are you paid? Are you fine? 3, they are people who handle their complaints when they are brought at office. It should not be an Arab to handle a complaint, because this is a Ugandan. So a Ugandan needs a person who is from her country to understand what her problem is, to guide her where she might be wrong, or to defend her where the sponsor is wrong. But that is the responsibility of a coordinator, or what you call an attaché. But unfortunately, there is no defined JD for these people. Up to now, it's not there. There is no defined contract for these people. Up to now, it's not there. There is no defined qualifications for these people. Up to now, it's not there. So you find someone in an office who is happening to be a coordinator in the office, yet this person doesn't even qualify to be a domestic worker in one's house. You find someone who is a coordinator in an office who does not even speak English properly, who doesn't even know how to use a computer properly. You find someone in an office who happens to be a coordinator, yet the same person is the cleaner in that office. So what do you expect from an Arab or from a migrant worker who has come to office to register a complaint, and he finds the person who is the coordinator mopping the floor? For him or her to handle the complaint that is being registered, he has to first wash the hands, clean the hands, and then comes, yes sir, what were you saying? So how is this person going to be perceived? So it goes back still to the government. The government should source these people. The government should train these people. Let the government draft a training curriculum to the coordinators who are going in Saudi Arabia. Let them be accredited that whoever who is going to be as a supervisor or as a coordinator in Saudi Arabia, these are the qualifications. And we have given them this training so that whoever goes there knows what he or she has to do. And the other challenge that they are getting, coordinators are in the offices, but they are working on the mass of the offices in Saudi Arabia. They are given 900 Saudi Riyal. That is closely the same money the domestic worker is being given. Jesus. So how do you expect this person to deliver? Yet that is the only solution to the outcries we hear in the houses of the domestic workers.
Now let me just remind my viewer that you can be part of the topic of discussion this lovely morning by simply using the number on your screen. It is up there. Kindly send me a WhatsApp message or a text message, and I'll be reading it out for my guest in studio, who happens to be heading the African office in Riyadh, that is Saudi Arabia, for his company. So these are people that are supposed to receive complaints from the domestic worker in any part of Saudi Arabia. And we are looking at how best can we stop this mistreatment, the harassment of these young girls that go to Saudi Arabia. I'm referring to Saudi Arabia because it is the only country that government of Uganda has a memorandum of understanding and a bilateral agreement on labor externalization of domestic workers. But there are many. You find them in Kuwait, you find them in the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, you find them all over. But remember, once they are there and they have not gone through the legal process, sometimes it is very, very hard for government to intervene when uncertainties arrive. Now, let's look at the element of training also of these young girls. I know you guys are out there to do business, which is not a crime anyway, because this is a sector that was liberalized. Government allowed this to happen, so there's no illegality in that. But we know the private sector is business profit-oriented. Now, I've had interactions with some of these girls that return, and I ask them, were you aware of what you're going to do? They seem not to have been aware. You ask them, you went through a training, first it was 1 week, it was extended to 2 weeks. Then how come you didn't understand the nature of work you're going to do? You know? Someone tells you, for me, they told me I'm going to be a housemaid, but I clean 5 floors. Today I work on this, tomorrow I work on that, tomorrow. Then the other day that's not what they told me I was going to do. I was going to go in someone's home, like it is here in Uganda. And you find a lot of information that seemingly they went unprepared for. Had they known the fact, maybe they would have pulled out of this. So what is the training like? Do you ensure that these young girls understand the baggage, the luggage if there is to carry, the task ahead of them?
The training, when you look onto the curriculum of the training centers, the training is very good when you look on the curriculum. But still, many training centers, they're just business oriented. And this is driven from some recruitment companies, because some of them, they're after having their migrant workers cleared, trained or not, understood or not. So it should be a responsibility of the training centers to ensure that whoever leaves the training center has obtained or has received the information she or he requires to receive from the training centers. But whoever goes into the training, we always get people passing. The intake has 500, the people have passed their 500. So people are still taking training for granted.
Yes.
They don't find it to be a requirement that is very crucial to ensure that the migrant worker, when he or she goes to Saudi Arabia or anywhere he or she is going, will receive, it will be part of his contract or her contract. So they are still taken to be for granted.
Informality just.
Just a formality.
I went through these 2 weeks and...
I don't know who sets the exams, but still I'll take it back to government. Because in countries like Kenya, because I've been there, the government happens to have a body that is responsible for the training of the migrant workers.
Here we just accredited a few centers.
The government accredited, but it still has the responsibility of issuing the training certificates. And at very many times, contracts are rejected in the ministry upon approval level because of the training certificate. Because of maybe some questions they ask and the migrant worker cannot answer very well, and they take her back to the training, which is not yet here in Uganda. So it still goes back to the government. Yes, you gave out licenses to these training centers. You gave them accreditations. But still, it is a mandatory responsibility of the government under the Ministry of Labor to ensure that the training centers are giving the migrant workers the information they have to get.
Okay, let me look at a few messages here. Perezi from Makerere. Thank you, and Samba. I wish to know what efforts has the private sector put in place as government remains silent, as you have said.
The private sector, some are doing what they have to do. Some are trying. That's why you find that private sector has attaches, coordinators in Saudi Arabia. The private sector, at their level, they are trying, I would say. But still, some are still redundant. Some are still reluctant. But still, who has to revoke these licenses? It should be the government. If someone has taken 100 domestic workers in Saudi Arabia, and we find that out of the 100, 60 have come back, why should this person be still recruiting people? If someone has taken 1,000 migrant workers in Saudi Arabia, and this same person brings back 700 migrant workers within a year, who should be, why should this person remain in business?
Because the law is very clear that after a girl's contract has expired, she must...
expiring. I'm talking about before expiring. There are many workers who come back here because they are not qualified. There are many workers who come back here because they went when they are pregnant. There are many workers who come back here because they are not competent enough to do the work they are doing. But who is tracking all of that? You see, at the end of the day, the private sector...
Have you ever followed a case of one who returned because she was pregnant?
Yes.
Yes,
there are very many who come back. Even some come back when they're having HIV.
Unfortunately, later she came back in a very sorry state. She had to abort. It was misery.
Some go there when she's 1,000 kilograms, maybe 100 kilograms. Some go there when they have pressure. Some go there when she cannot even read her own name. So who takes these people? So the private sector, at the end of the day, these are businessmen who are not operating NGOs, but they're operating business where they're putting money to ensure that they get profit at the end of the day. So at one time, even if we shall say that the private sector, they are trying, at one time they'll do mistakes. At one time, they'll consider profits more than any other thing as a business. So it should be the government to regulate its people who it gave licenses.
Well, still looking at some of the messages coming in here, and if